Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We have over 50 attendees. This is amazing. Thank you. Welcome back, and I hope you enjoyed the film as much as I did. It was so touching. And now for the post-screening poll, if you missed the first one, now you have another chance for an opportunity to win a $100 gift card to Farmhouse Thai Kitchen in San Francisco. And this is just for the San Francisco location. If you know Farmhouse Thai, they have locations all over the Bay Area. Enter your name and affiliation in the chat box when you're done with the poll, so we know that you're entered, and we'll do the drawing after the Q&A. The poll is going to close when we're done introducing our panelists. And as a quick reminder, there's a Q&A button in your controls to drop questions to the panelists. And we'll try to answer as many questions as time allows after the discussion. Now, without further ado, please allow me to present our very special guest, Elizabeth Winograd. She is Senior Program Officer at the Low Income Investment Fund. For more than 20 years, Elizabeth has served as an advocate, funder, researcher, and program developer in early childcare and education. Elizabeth provides expertise on facilities development and financing. She has written and updated reports that support the economic impact of early care and education, childcare facility planning, and development. She has also contributed to numerous publications specific to early education and on topics such as land use, business technical assistance, and co-location of childcare within housing. And next, we have Mechele Pruitt, Family and Community Services Director at WUI. Mechele has worked in the field of child development and served families for 3 decades. Mechele oversees several programs that connect families to childcare and education services, payment assistance, and provide support to strengthen family childcare businesses. Next, we have Cheryl Horney. Cheryl has been in the field for over 15 years as a teacher, coach, and manager. She has been in her current position as Child Development Program Director at WUI since 2014. She serves on the San Francisco Child Care Advisory Planning Committee and on the board of the San Francisco Women's Building. Cheryl currently runs the largest Head Start program in San Francisco, serving over 540 children each year. She is the proud mother of a toddler who attends an early learning center in San Francisco. And to moderate this panel, I am very pleased and proud to present Monica Walters, Chief Executive Officer of WUI. She has an extensive background in advocacy to address early childhood education, chronic poverty, domestic violence, healthcare, and economic equality. Now over to you, Monica.
Thanks so very much, Virginia, and to all of our guests for joining us this evening. We're really happy to have this chance to really dive a little bit deeper into what we all know and love as the importance of early care and education. And I realize I'm speaking to the choir here for many of you, but for those who are perhaps new to both WUI and the field of ECE, early childhood education, let's just kind of go over some of the things that were covered in this really important documentary. This work is grounded in the idea that early care and education is deeply personal. After all, we've either all had a child, known a child, or of course, been a child at one point. So, but on a broader scale, as the film points out, the return on investment for high quality early learning has ripple effects across all of our society. The decision makers understand the complexities and importance of early education, but too few do. Not all decision makers do, I should say. Too few do really understand that. And the challenges faced by parents and educators, the social impact and the full range of opportunities just somehow do not get through to these folks. And we miss that opportunity for getting it right. The film covered a lot of ground, from the lack of affordable childcare to the toxic stress of parenting when few resources are available to you, And to the educators' wages, obviously, was one of the closing, most poignant parts of this film to me. As educators, we see how some children are left behind before they even start. And a child's zip code, we believe strongly, their zip code, ethnicity, and income level should not determine their choices or chances of getting the best start possible. And yet, unfortunately, we know that that's still the case in this country. Inequality continues to define potential, even when it comes to fundamental rights like education. And many children, particularly those of color, immigrants, low income immigrants, and monolingual learners, are not prepared for kindergarten, which puts them at a disadvantage before they've even begun. So we again saw through this film the research that shows when children are given access to education that's especially geared toward their needs from day one, they just don't show up to kindergarten more prepared, but they also have a jump start in life, realizing their potential in academics and in life beyond that. You know, from its very beginning, Wu Yi's mission and values were framed by our bold founders to be a place where children from different ethnic and racial groups and English language learners would thrive. Our original name, in fact, was the Association of Children's Rights, which embedded the right of every child to have an early education and care setting that met their needs and guided their path to success in school, family, and community. This was and continues to be our highest goal. Children are the heart of Wu Yi. Our decisions and actions are led by asking what's best for each individual child. That's why Wu Yi offers such a vast array of resources and services to capably meet the needs of unique children and their families. By keeping a child at the center, at the heart and core of all that we do, we stay in the vanguard of ensuring they get an early start to a brighter future. The infants, toddlers, and preschoolers in our programs are provided this educational, social, emotional, health, nutrition, and family support, which we believe are the essential ingredients that are needed to thrive, not just survive. And we see each day their significant gains in development and growth as a result. It takes many talented and dedicated staff to make it all happen. And that workforce is also facing challenges to their ability and thrive in the Bay Area due to the same pressures that we saw in the film that comes with living in a high-cost area. We're committed to advancing compensation and benefits that will attract, retain, and sustain our valuable teachers and support staff. And I'm really glad that we have Cheryl with us this evening, because Cheryl knows firsthand the struggles and the triumphs of the teachers and staff that work with the children in the early Head Start and Head Start programs. And she's going to address this critical issue in her comments now and give us an overview of some of the threats that she's seeing in realizing this goal to attract, retain, and sustain our valuable teachers and support staff. So Cheryl is a longtime educator and director of 12 Head Start centers in San Francisco. Can you share with us what's been the most challenging for you here in San Francisco and why it's so hard to get children the early education that they need?
Yes, thank you, Monica. Early educators lead children through the most important years of their development. And as we said, they earn poverty level wages right now. Higher compensation and supportive work environments play a critical role in determining the quality of services our children receive and the ability of programs to recruit and retain highly skilled teachers. Yet wages and benefits for early educators remain among the lowest of any occupation in the country, creating challenges to attracting new teachers and fueling turnover and teacher shortages. For example, 2 years ago here at Wu Yi, we had one of our very dedicated teachers who had worked in the field of early education for over 8 years leave the field to go work at Costco. This was because the benefits of Costco were better than what we could provide as a community-based organization. She was a talented teacher, and it was a loss for our children and families. And this is just one story of many teachers and family childcare educators who have had to leave the field or the classroom for other roles and higher compensation. Children deserve educators whose profession is valued. We know children are learning from the moment they're born, and that ages 0 through 5 are critical to their educational path. Yet, as a society, we don't value the very people vital to these early days. Early childhood educators have been undercompensated for years. I can speak to that. 15 years ago, living in one of the highest cost of living cities in the country, I made only $9 an hour as a lead teacher with a bachelor's degree. While training and educational requirements continue to increase, pay and benefits have not. In fact, most early childhood educators with bachelor's degrees make 50% less than elementary school teachers. Couple that with the increased cost of living in San Francisco, and it's no wonder many move on to other careers or communities. If we want our children to have the best start possible, we have to support educators with livable pay and benefits that reflect their critical value. Just as they mentioned in the clip, the national wage scale shows what sectors our society values, not to mention the demographic stratification of the workforce leans heavily on women. The gravity of our work is diminished by being described as naps and sacks or babysitting. Teachers are well versed in the science of brain development and early learning. They are brain builders, they're performers, writers, scientists, artists, event planners, philosophers, and therapists every day in their jobs. Despite what the science reveals about the complexity of nurturing the development and learning of young children, perceptions persist that the younger the child, the less skilled the work. Our country needs to take a hard look at why these perceptions persist. Children deserve educators whose profession is valued.
Cheryl, I just wanted to ask you if you could speak also to our teachers' capacity to respond quickly to the changing needs of families and children during the pandemic, because this has been, such a challenging time for all of us, and yet we know the amazing work that our teachers have been able to do.
Yes, and I know that there's many teachers and family childcare educators on this call, so I want to say thank you to you all. And it was a transition for everyone, and especially the early education field, which is not meant to be virtual at all. But early childhood educators are resilient. They're used to making shifts in their practice quickly based on new scientific knowledge about how children learn and develop, and also based on political trends that dictate the multi-layered systems of requirements that teachers are held accountable to. Here at Wu Yi, during the first week of shelter in place, our teachers transitioned to virtual connections, making phone calls to every child and family weekly in order to maintain that relationship between the child and the teacher during that difficult time for all of us. They then later transitioned to Zoom circle times, recording and reading books online, and working with the dyad of the parent and the child, as parents are their child's primary teacher, and no parent should have to go it alone.
Again, thank you to all of you in the field, our teachers at Wu Yi and our support staff at Wu Yi, and all of those who are listening to us, are joining us this evening, who have played an important part in the fabric of a strong early learning workforce in San Francisco. And we want to thank you all and commend you for making this very difficult transition from the in-person learning that teachers thrive on and love to virtual learning, which has been very difficult for so many of us. I want to thank you, Cheryl, again, and I 100% agree with what you've said. We know that early educators in the bottom 3 to 5% are in the bottom 3 to 5% of the national wage scale, and yet it's still unaffordable for parents. Mechele, you worked with parents to try to find childcare through our resource and referral programs. Please share with us some of the challenges faced by parents seeking childcare.
Thank you, Monica, and thanks to everybody this evening for joining us. Parenting can feel overwhelming for all of us. Even those most prepared and supported by family and friends can still feel like we fall a little short in support. And just when we think we have it all figured out, something changes and we're recalibrating again. Whether we have lost a job or our child suddenly regresses in their behaviors, the stresses of parenthood can be very heavy. That's why we believe at Wu Yi that no parent should go it alone. Parents need a partner who understands their challenges, listen to their aspirations, and walk alongside them to provide the best for all of our children. However, the need for early childhood education and care is greater than the supply. As a result, more than 3,000 young children remain on a wait list who qualify for income-based education and services in our city. Education is a basic human right. in the United States, yet not all of the youngest learners have access to education and care that's right for them and their families. As San Francisco's cost of living skyrockets, our young children and their families are moving away, largely because of the exorbitant cost of childcare, and it makes it impossible to afford raising a family in this city. I have worked with many parents over many years who have said that, Mechele, often we are struggling and juggling between our rent, our mortgage, and childcare, and it's impossible to do it all. Because of the cost of care, I want to tell you a story about someone that we served at Wu Yi. Linda, who was a single pregnant mother and didn't speak English, because of the cost of childcare, she wasn't sure that she wanted to have the baby and sought us out because of a friend had referred her to us. We were able to walk her through her options and put her on a wait list for childcare. While she waited, she would attend parenting workshops at our Family Resource Center. That helped her grow a support network through our staff and our other attendees, which gave her the confidence to go through with her pregnancy. For a new pregnant mom, it's crucial to have a support system, and making friends with mothers who are in the same boat you are is one way of creating support and a network for yourself. That helped her grow a support network through our staff and other attendees and gave her the confidence. Fortunately, before the baby was born, a space opened up in our home visiting program. She was able to receive support in her home from an early care educator who taught her about nutrition and developmental activities. After her baby was born, we were able to place her in a subsidized childcare center. With her baby in a trusted care setting, she was able to take classes and work on her resume with support from our staff. Linda eventually found a job to provide for her family, and her son Ben, thanks to a bilingual educator, thanks to an educator who was bilingual in Chinese and English by the time he was 2 years old. Unfortunately, for the 3,000 children who still remain on the wait list, their stories are still waiting to be told.
Wow, that's a great story. A great outcome for Linda. You know, I was a single mom raising 3 children, and I can relate to her story. I struggled, but I was also fortunate enough to find really great help. The truth is, help is not there for everyone. Half of Americans live in a childcare desert where there's undersupply of licensed childcare. Even in San Francisco, we only have capacity for 15% of children ages 0 to 2, and that percentage declines exponentially in low-income neighborhoods. Liz, what else are we missing in this equation? Tell us a little bit about your work at LIF and how we can disrupt this cycle and change our system for good.
Yes, thank you, Monica and Wu Yi team. It is a pleasure to be here this evening to talk about early care and education and the importance to invest more in our young children and teachers. The Low Income Investment Fund is a community development financial institution committed to using capital, capacity building, and public advocacy together to build sustainable community-based systems to support childcare facility financing and development. As all of you just viewed in the documentary clip, high quality, affordable childcare is an investment that enables the entire family to succeed by permitting family members to work or attend school while feeling confident about their children's education and well-being. Unfortunately, as Monica mentioned, demand far exceeds supply for high quality childcare, particularly for lower income families. The Low Income Investment Fund is a longtime provider of financial services to early care and education businesses. We understand the importance of supporting these entities that produce thriving small business, high quality early learning for all children, and broader economic opportunity and support for working parents. LIF is also involved in advocacy and public policy. Everyone here can be an advocate. We all can help make a difference by emailing or calling our elected officials and voice the needs for our community and community members. Right now, we need to break down the barriers to voting by working to inform and educate voters about what is on the ballot. This November in San Francisco, there is a very important measure, an opportunity to release funding for early care and education services. This measure is Proposition F. Let me tell you a little bit about this proposition and how it came about. In 2018, San Francisco voters made their priorities very clear by approving Proposition C to fund early care and education. Today, the pandemic has made investment in these areas even more critical. San Francisco families were already struggling with the high cost of living, housing, and childcare. COVID-19 has only deepened disparities and driven more families over the edge. Although revenue has been collected from the measure passed in 2018, these funds have remained untapped due to litigation. Proposition F would immediately release $433 million for early care and education services. This proposition will help close the city's budget shortfall, and it's estimated to create 3,500 jobs, and will provide immediate assistance to small businesses struggling due to the pandemic, and will eliminate the city's payroll expense tax, and reduce registration fees for small businesses and make adjustments to the gross receipt tax rates. To find out more about Proposition F, we will add a link to this sheet you see here in that you're viewing right now. And it's just time to invest in our youngest children. And hopefully you'll learn more about this proposition and vote yes on Proposition F. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Liz. I mean, I think we know, those of us that work in this field, that it takes a village. Well, it takes all of us also to advocate on behalf of our children. And so in this critical time, we're just hoping that everyone that's listening to us tonight and watching will tell their friends and neighbors, if they're registered voters in San Francisco, what is on the ballot and how important Prop F is to ensure the future for our children in San Francisco. A city like San Francisco needs children to thrive and survive as a good, wonderful society. And so, yeah, just really get out there and spread the word and do your part as citizen advocates to help Prop F pass.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you, Liz, Cheryl, and Mechele. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and expertise. That was eye-opening. Now I'm going to start reading through questions, so don't go anywhere yet. The drawing winners will be announced after our Q&A. I have a question to start, Monica. How can individuals get more involved in local and state policy right now?
Well, again, I think I just said, first of all, register to vote if you're not already registered. Vote if you haven't, and look carefully at the proposals that are in your official voter's guide. And there you'll see a good explanation of just what Liz mentioned about Prop F. And also just remember that beyond local politics, we have the state and federal legislators who also should be prioritizing children and early education. So as far as I'm concerned, if people recognize this as a national issue beyond local, as we saw in the film, then we should push our elected officials to make this a national priority.
Thanks, Monica. Let me get to the next question. How many teachers needed to stay home to care for their own children?
That's a great question, and I'd like to ask Cheryl to fill that one in for us.
Yeah, we did have some teachers that needed to stay home. We offered working remote option, so that those teachers could be working remote. We were sheltered in place here at WUI until June. So when we opened up in June, San Francisco was starting to open up more programs. And then the other thing we've done more recently is opened up a community learning hub. Actually, when I say recently, Tuesday, at our Kirkwood Center in the Hunters Point area, so that staff can help to put their school-age children in there too, so that they're able to work while their school-age children are attending their Zoom classes and such. So I'd say probably about 10 to 15% of our teachers did need to work remotely at first.
Thank you, Cheryl. Now we have our next question. Monica, do you have advice for immigrant families during this time?
You know, I think that immigrant families, no matter what their needs are, be they food insecurity or lack of other, resources, should definitely check out their family resource centers. There's 26, I believe, if not more of them, I think, Mechele, in San Francisco. And all of the family resource centers, funded in part by First Five and the Office of Early Care and Education, are there to help in the community. Each neighborhood, each community has unique needs, just like children have unique needs. So whether it's access to translation so that they can understand information about COVID, whether it's understanding what their benefits are, what they can get, how they can get help with everything from food to support, other kinds of cash support. Your family resource centers are a really good source of information for that. I think if you go on the First Five website, I believe you can get access to family resource centers. But we know that immigrants and oftentimes people with limited English skills have a particularly difficult situation. So call WUI and we'll see what we can do for you.
Thanks, Monica. Our next question: how many staff and teachers are you able to currently employ? And what is the ideal number of staff and teachers to reach our goal?
Cheryl?
Sure. So in our, we are teachers, 105, but we also have a home visiting program. We work with family childcare, and we have other support staff. So I think, has 250 employees of support staff. And currently, mostly teachers, we have about 24 openings. And so we would want all those 24 filled, right? To be the ideal. And I think there was a follow-up question of how much money. And I think the reason that they're not filled is because the field doesn't pay enough.
Yeah, I was just going to add that, Cheryl. I think one thing that we saw in the film, and is certainly true with our workforce here in San Francisco, is there's a crisis. People are not going to go into a particular academic or professional career if they know that they won't be able to pay the bills when they're working in that job, even though it's like the teacher that left us for Costco, even though it's their dream job, it's a profession they love, they want to be in it. And it breaks their heart to have to leave it, just like the gal we saw in the film today. These are dedicated people that love children, that love education, love what they do, but we have to treat them with value and give them the compensation they deserve. So right now in San Francisco, we are really struggling to fill teacher openings. And it's not just WUI, it's across the board. And again, what are we going to do? We're going to have to pass Prop F, and we're going to have to raise the alarm that unless we want our children to continue to be ill-prepared to learn and reach their potential, then we don't invest in this field. If we want good outcomes for our kids and for us as a society, then we need to start investing in early care and education. And that means paying teachers the money and the wages that they so desperately deserve.
Thank you, Monica. Next question from Emily. How do you advocate for local support of ECE among the younger communities in SF who, one, might not have children of their own, or two, see San Francisco as a place where they will leave when they do have children? In other words, how do we make urban areas like San Francisco more sustainable for children and families with young children?
Who wants to take that one? Mechele?
I can take that one. You know, I'm a big believer in our citizens getting to know their district supervisors. They are a gateway to making San Francisco a better place. And if you write your district supervisor or give them a call and express the need for more childcare, for high quality early childhood education, for increased wages for teachers, they take that back to their office and support it even more locally. So it's very important to be involved in your child's school, whether it's a preschool or an elementary school. I always tell parents that's the way we make a stronger community, by the involvement of our families and our parents in our children's education.
And to those tech workers with no kids, wondering why should I support something? I don't have kids. Again, as it said, you were either a child, you have been a child, or you're going to know somebody who has a child, or really, do you want to live in a community that is devoid of children? This is our society we're talking about. This is our future we're talking about. And for those people that are in the industry, again, as it was pointed out in the documentary, failing to educate at the very earliest ages and care for our youngest children is going to result in bad outcomes and not the workforce that we need to keep moving America forward. So it is a return on investment. Beyond the heartstrings, if you don't have kids, think of it as an economic driver, because it really is.
Thank you. I'm going to go through the two last questions for the evening. First, how is San Francisco providing facilities that meet the many requirements for space to provide early care and education? How is San Francisco doing to provide facilities that meet many requirements for space to provide early care and education?
As our city grows. Well, I could tell you what a lot of the work that not just the Low Income Investment Fund, but other nonprofit and early care and education agencies are doing is that we're looking really now at co-locating childcare facilities within affordable housing. And it really makes sense. I mean, where there's housing, you want grocery stores, you want healthcare, and you want schools and early childhood education. And so right now, we have been in partnership with many affordable housing developers here in the city and also across the Bay. We're spreading this statewide, region-wide, and that's exactly what we're doing, is that many of the preschools, child development centers are going into affordable housing projects throughout the city.
Thanks, Liz. And then the last question of the evening, do you have any advice for other social service organizations right now?
Well, I mean, I think that all of us, whether we're working in the field of early education or working in social services related to housing, homelessness, food security, mental health and wellness, we're all struggling because COVID has created a lot of stress for people. And it's also challenged us financially. So I think one of the things that is a very strong value for Wu Yi is not only we don't go it alone in terms of we don't have all the answers, but we really rely on our community partners to work with us and collaborate. And I think this is a time more than ever that nonprofits and social services need to work together to form a strong fabric and a strong advocacy for making sure that we can thrive and survive through all of this. Because one thing this pandemic has shown, and that is we're all somewhat vulnerable. And without the fabric and the structure of social services and nonprofits who are there to help people in times of stress and need, we are going to have a lot of problems. So this is the time for us to band together, to work together, and to advocate together for making sure that we can stay strong to continue to meet the important needs of the people in San Francisco.
Great, we're at time. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to call the winners of the $100 gift cards in just a minute. If you haven't voted, haven't gone to vote, go vote and vote yes on Prop F. And there are some other actions you can take to make a bigger impact. Really important to share your stories so our legislators know what to prioritize. Tag WUYI with your stories, share them with us. Volunteer to help with organizations, and volunteer to spread the word about Prop F. Yes on Prop F. And come back and join us in a couple weeks as we celebrate with our annual fall benefit called Resilience Back to Learning, where we will be joined by producer of No Small Matter herself, Laura Falsgraf, Bay Area Regional Manager of Common Sense, Jamie Nunez, and the President of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, Norman Yee. And we'll also have a very special performance by Mom and Son Piano Virtuosos, 2 Piano Journey. So please come back and join us at 6 p.m. Thursday, November 5th, and invite your friends. And now for the winners of our raffle. Congratulations, Connie White. You won the $100 gift cards to Kingston 11 in Oakland. And congratulations, Oneida Arevalo, for winning the $100 gift card to Farmhouse Thai Kitchen in San Francisco. Congratulations, Connie and Oneida. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and hope to see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great evening.